Deep in the heart of the enchanted realm, beyond the golden meadows and crystal lakes, lay a mysterious land known as Tempest Hollow. Unlike the rest of fairyland, where the skies were always blue and the sun shone brightly, Tempest Hollow was a place of endless storms. Dark clouds swirled above, thunder rumbled like a restless beast, and rain fell almost every day. Legend spoke of a fairy who lived there, a fairy whose very emotions controlled the weather. She was called Zephyra, the asterisk storm fairy. No one knew how she came to be, for she was unlike any other fairy. While most fairies were born from stardust and moonlight, Zephyra was born from a lightning strike during the fiercest storm fairyland had ever seen. The sky split apart, the wind howled, and from the center of the storm, she emerged, a child with silver wings, electric blue eyes, and hair that crackled with static energy. But Zephyra was no ordinary fairy. Every time she cried, the heavens wept with her. When she felt sorrow, rain poured for days. When she grew angry, lightning danced across the sky, and when she was truly heartbroken, a storm of unimaginable fury would rise, shaking the very foundation of fairyland. For this reason, she was feared. The fairies of the sunlit kingdom avoided her, whispering that she was a curse upon their world. The elves of the misty glades built walls around their lands, hoping to shield themselves from her unpredictable powers. Even the great rulers of fairyland, Queen Aurora and King Eldrin, debated whether Zephyra should be banished forever. So, Zephyra lived in solitude. Her only companions were the storm clouds that followed her wherever she went, the lightning that flickered around her fingers, and the howling wind that carried her sadness across the land. She longed for friends, for someone who would see past the storms and understand the heart that beat beneath the thunder. One day, a great drought plagued fairyland. The rivers dried up, the flowers withered, and the once lush forests turned brittle and lifeless. The fairies tried every spell, every dance, but not a single drop of rain fell. Desperate, Queen Aurora made a bold decision: she would seek out the storm fairy. The queen traveled to Tempest Hollow, where the sky raged like a furious beast. Lightning flashed, rain poured, and the wind roared as if trying to push her back. But she pressed on, finding Zephyra sitting alone on a cliff, watching the storm with a sorrowful gaze. "Zephyra," the queen called out, her voice barely audible over the storm. "Fairyland needs you." Zephyra turned, her eyes glowing with lightning. "No one has ever needed me," she whispered. "But we do," Queen Aurora said. "Our lands are dying. We need your rain to bring life back to fairyland." For the first time in her life, Zephyra felt wanted. A tear slipped down her cheek, and at that moment, the clouds parted just enough for a single ray of sunlight to touch her face. She closed her eyes and let her emotions flow freely. And then, the skies unleashed the most magnificent storm fairyland had ever seen. But this time, it was not a storm of destruction. It was a storm of renewal. The rain fell gently at first, soaking into the parched earth. Rivers filled, flowers bloomed, and the forests breathed once more. The fairies watched in awe as life returned before their very eyes. From that day on, Zephyra was no longer feared. She was celebrated as a guardian, a bringer of life. Though storms still followed her, the fairies no longer saw them as a curse but as a gift. For without the storm, there would be no growth. Without the rain, there would be no beauty. And so, Zephyra, the storm fairy, finally found her place in fairyland, not as a bringer of destruction, but as a force of nature, both powerful and necessary.